Hi, Mr. Jones. A continuation. Um, have you ever heard of Warren Buffett? He's a famous financier. He always says words like this. He says it's not what you can make on your money that's critically important. It's the return of your money that's critically important. So in the example I just showed you, that individual that lost 43% of his money did not even get the return of his principal. So I'm going to use another example now. Let's say an individual has $10,000 to invest, and he invests it in the stock market. And I'm going to assume, and by the way, I'm using this chart. He assumes that he gets, let's assume he gets a 10% return one year, first year. So his $10,000 becomes $11,000. And then he has another good year. The 10,000 becomes $12,100. So he's gone from 10,000 to $12,100 in 2 years. It's been a good run. However, now comes a year in the stock market, as it always does, where there's going to be a loss here. Let's assume that the next year he loses $20,000, 20%. So 20% of the $12,100 mathematically becomes $9,600 under his plan. Now remember our plan in the indexed annuity. The $12,100 that he gained is not lost in a down market. In fact, he keeps the $12,100, even though it would have gone down to $9,600 if he didn't have the protection. And let's assume that the next year it goes down again. It drops another 17%. This actually happened. His $9,600 becomes $7,900 without protection. But again, in the index product, he keeps the $12,100. So he's again holding. He's kept his gains. And now let's assume that the market goes up again. It goes up 12%. He gets 12% on top of his secured gains of $12,100. In the other scenario, without the protection, he gets the $7,900 and the 12%. It becomes about $9,000. And if at the end of the period, you can see what's going to happen. The indexed annuity has $13,500, and because of the protection, the unprotected product has about $9,000 in it. So which would you rather have? Excuse me. 9,000 or $13,500. So that's what happens. That's how people dig themselves a hole with the market. It happened. It actually happened in the marketplace. The index strategy makes sense for a lot of people because of the market protection. It's tied to as I said, tied to the Standard & Poor's 500, which means you're not actually in the marketplace, but the return that the Standard & Poor's gets is what you experience, even though you're not, excuse me, actually participating in the marketplace. So that's exactly what's happened. And by the way, in the last 25 years, Standard & Poor's averaged about 10%. So this is kind of a real-world scenario in the marketplace. Now, this is the index. And the index strategy is the one that you've chosen. 6. Oh yeah, but you can't win. But you can't win just the inflation battle. You've got to win the tax battle. So there are 3 general ways of how taxes are paid, and I'm going to go through them with you, and I'm going to draw these on a plan. Let's assume that you have $10,000 and it earns $1,000. That's a 10% gain, but you have to pay 35% in taxes because it's taxable. So really you got, after taxes, $650, which equates to a 6.5% gain rather than a 10%. It's not a good way to save more money. In a tax-free scenario, you would keep the $10,000 and have a 10% gain. So these are part of the tax codes that can change. They're determined by the government. There's another way to tax another tax strategy is called deferred taxes, where you, in my example, put the $10,000, gains $1,000. It's still taxable, but not paid that year. It's deferred. You're going to pay those 35% taxes, but not this year. You're going to pay it when you take your money out. It's a deferred tax situation. So it's better than paying the taxes up front because your money has more time to earn money before you ultimately pay the taxes. Uh, and the third way is to have a completely tax-free scenario, which is, of course, the best way. You really $10,000, you earn 1,000, you keep the 10%, you get the 10% without taxes. Okay. Uh, when you have a 401k, I think you said you had a 401k. Let's do